Hi everybody, thanks for joining us for Northern Ag TV. Well, USDA released their annual acreage report and said that there are 4.6 million more acres of corn this year, 3.7 million less acres of soybeans, and wheat acres down about 600,000 from a year ago. In Montana, though, wheat acres are up. Executive Director of the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, Kent Kupfner, told me that there was some shifting around of wheat acres in Montana this year.
For Montana, all wheat acres were up 3%. Within that, though, we saw a big jump in winter wheat, 2.3 million. That's up 18%. That's mainly because we had good moisture in September and early October. Growers remember what the last couple of years winter wheat crops have been like in Montana. They've been very good. And the fact that we seem to be in this weather pattern, unfortunately, of getting hot and dry not long after the 4th of July, that's beaten up our spring planted cereals. On the spring wheat side, we planted the exact same amount of acres we planted to winter wheat, and that was down 6% from the previous year.
Barley acres dropped 15% in Montana, but that was largely absorbed by an increase in North Dakota. And growers continue to turn to pulses as a rotational crop, with total pulse acres in Montana up 10% at just shy of 1.7 million. Ken also added that at the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee's summer meeting in Havre last week, they spent some time celebrating Max Cederberg of Turner, who retired from the committee after 6 years of service.
He's done a great job for us. He brings a lot of perspective. He's quite insightful. He's always set aside part of his farm for off-station research plots that they do out of the Havre Research Center. We're sad to see Max go, but at the same point, it's time for him to ride off into the sunset, and he brought a lot to the table, and the Montana wheat and barley industry should be thankful for Max's service.
And RCAF has been engaged in litigation against USDA's electronic ear tag rule going back to 2019. That rule is in effect requiring EID tags now for breeding cattle that cross state lines. Attorney Kara Rollins represents RCAF and says the litigation is ongoing, and they have huge concerns about how USDA is considering the EID tags and Bangs vaccines.
This Bangs tag issue, this has been a point of contention in the litigation. They claim that the EID rule doesn't change the Bangs vaccination process. The government sort of made it sense, well, you could still use the metal tags. You can't. It's right there in the rule. You can't do that. And when we pointed that out to them, their response was, well, folks are deciding to Bangs vaccinate, so it's a self-inflicted injury. One of the things we know is there was never enough free tags. Government allotted about $15 million. The rule costs about $26.1 million a year. That puts them shy of about 60% of the total tags needed. So as a matter of basic math, there was never enough free tags.
Stick around, we'll be back to check out the markets after this.
From the beginning, we've worked closely with farmers. BNSF's ties to the agricultural community go back 175 years. Together, we've innovated to make the U.S. agriculture supply chain one of the most efficient and productive in the world. Our strong relationship powers BNSF still today and helps us move the nation like no one else can. At BNSF, we move the nation for you.
Talking with someone that you know is stressed out, those are difficult things to approach, but if you're good friends with those people, reach out and say, I'm here to talk to you. We can find somewhere to get some assistance. It's hard to get involved, but at the same time, you want to just say, hey, there is help available.
For more tips in dealing with stress in agriculture or for free counseling for egg producers, visit beyondtheweather.com.
Well, cattle futures managed some degree of recovery after the announcement that imports of cattle from Mexico would be allowed again. That did cause a steep drop in the market. Today, one port in Arizona will be opening, with phased opening of other ports expected through the summer, but that depends on how the screwworm situation develops. Now we'll be watching beef demand closely, as we typically see demand slide lower after the 4th of July, and the fed cattle market often follows suit. The cash was better than expected last week, holding fairly steady, albeit in a wide range, with live sales 220 to 234, dress trade 365 to 375. A record high market for Cattle Country Video's High Plains Showcase last week. Upper 4-weight steers averaged 435. The light 5-weights averaged 410. Upper 5-weights at 388, selling up to 408, and 6 to 6.5 weight steers averaging 368. Today starts Superior Livestock Auctions Week in the Rockies. Over 300,000 head of cattle selling. The yearlings from our region will be offered on Wednesday and the calves on Friday. And looking towards the grain market, we did see a big dose of price recovery on Wednesday and a rather quiet finish to the week on Thursday. The spring wheat premium over hard red winter wheat has stretched to $1.10, the highest the spread has been since February of 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. Drought continues to expand across the northwest and is wreaking havoc, especially on spring planted crops. Harvest season likely to have an early start this year. We could see combines starting to roll here within the next week or 10 days. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this morning's report. I'm Coulter Brown. Have a great week.